Here's what I know is true. Most weight loss plans are one size fits all. So frustrating. They don't take into account each person's individual needs, which could mean dietary restrictions, medical issues, or other personal needs. That's why you're going to love Noom. It's built for your psychology and your biology, meeting you where you are. Noom's personalized programs feel more sustainable than any other, more restrictive weight loss programs. And also, it doesn't shame you when you choose to treat yourself, and that's important. I like this company because it's got a psychology and biology-based approach and a super easy app to use with lots of great features, including daily lessons, coaching, and flexibility. I think it's your time to start. Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com. Based on 3.5-year study of actively engaged Noom users with minimum BMI of 25. Individual results may vary. Visit Noom.com for more information. Here's the thing, it's kind of gross out. It's freezing. And even those of us that embrace the chilly weather, which is of course not me, we need something to break up long winter nights. Something that I love to do is treat myself to a little something. So I like to go and I like to shop online. And one of my favorite sites to go to is Quince, because you can treat yourself to everyday luxury, but at an affordable price. Something that everyone needs in their closet. In my opinion, the Quince's iconic Mongolian cashmere sweaters are a must-have, which only start at $50. And if you really want to up the luxe factor, you can check out their Italian leather bags. You gotta get the tote bag. So whatever you're looking for, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. And they can do that by partnering directly with top factories and cutting the cost of the middleman, passing the savings on to you. And of course, they use premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel. So give yourself the luxury you deserve with Quince. Go to quince.com/Kate Casey for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/Kate Casey to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Kate Casey.
The amazing Kate Casey.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey. Hope you're having a great week. And I've got a great episode for you because there is a new series on Hulu. It is called Muslim Matchmaker. The way people date can vary across cultures, faiths, and generations. In one part of the world, dating and marriage is traditional with the strong influence of family, while in another part of the world, it's based more on personal choice. Older generations may have met through family or friends, but now you can meet through dating apps and social media. But it really is the same pursuit, to evaluate compatibility and suitability for a long-term relationship. There are a plethora of dating shows that explore the way in which people pursue love. And I've probably watched all of them. I've probably interviewed the people behind the camera and those that are featured. Dating is an endlessly fascinating conversation. And I've always loved the way that unscripted TV explores how love is the great pursuit. So in this episode, I interview Muslim Matchmakers co-hosts, Hoda Abrahim and Yasmin Elhady. They're on a mission to help Muslim-American singles find their lifelong partner while staying true to their faith. So from cringy first dates to moments of profound connection, they're supporting their clients in navigating the complexities of dating with the intention of marriage while staying true to their values and beliefs. So what they do have is they've got this rule of 3 dates, 3 months, and 300 questions. Yes, you heard that right. So I explore all the facets of dating with them in this episode. By the way, this Hulu series is produced by Meralta Films in collaboration with ABC News Studios. Also in this episode, I interview my friend Nour and her sister Reem because they ended up marrying brothers. So if you love all things romance, this is an episode for you. And here is my interview with the co-host of Muslim Matchmaker. First of all, I'm so excited for the show. I can't even tell you. And I want to say thank you for bringing this to TV and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kate. We're so happy that you're excited and we can't wait for you to see it all.
Now, Yasmin, you and I actually have a great friend in common, Kirsten Isles.
I know. So that's what I was going to say. Like, I don't know if Kirsten knew you directly, but she was like, you should be on my friend Kate's podcast. I was like,
she
tell
wrote
her
me
about it.
Yeah, she told me. She got me so excited. She's hilarious.
She's amazing. She's a beautiful person too.
Yeah.
Like she's like a mentor and a girl's girl. And
totally. Well, we went to girls' college. We went to women's college.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys went to college.
In DC.
Okay, there you go. Love it. That makes total sense.
Well, let me start with this. Are you guys married? Do you guys have kids?
Yep. I've been married going on 8 years and I have 2 kids. I was actually pregnant with my second the entire time on the show. I know. I can't wait to she's 10 months now. So I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to relive that and kind of see her in my belly.
Yeah, that's sweet. Okay, awesome. And then for you, Yasmin?
I have 2 children, but I am not married. I've actually been divorced twice.
Oh, dada. No wonder you're a comedian.
Yeah.
A lot of material.
A lot of material.
I call it traumedy, which is trauma comedy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're an attorney too, and there's a lot of material there too.
Ton. Yeah. I'm just mining it these days. Yeah.
Well, so tell me a little bit about your origin stories. Where are you guys from originally?
So my parents are from Egypt. Both of them are from Egypt. I grew up on the East Coast as well. I grew up in North Carolina. And I live in Texas now. So now I'm in the South. But yeah, I was born and raised in North Carolina. I lived in the same zip code my entire life until I ended up getting married to somebody from Germany and then moving there. So we've lived kind of all over until the last few years deciding to settle here in Texas for now.
Great. What about you, Yasmin?
So I actually grew up in Alabama.
No.
Yes, but I can turn the accent on and I can turn it right back off.
Yeah, because I'm shocked because I don't hear any accent at all.
I don't think I've ever really heard your accent either, to be honest.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, when I'm down there, I start talking like this. But yeah. I was going to say that I learned English as a second language from a woman from Connecticut, a white woman from Connecticut, Miss Mooney, and so I sound like her.
Your ESL teacher?
My ESL teacher, and I really love her. I really honestly credit her with a lot of just being able to assimilate into a society that was very different. But I was born in Cairo. I am Egyptian and Libyan.
Okay.
And my dad was a minister in the Gaddafi regime.
Stop. Oh, no way.
Yes. And then he morally abstained against Gaddafi. And then we country hopped 6 countries to get to the freedom and safety of the United States. And then they took me to Alabama, which was neither free nor safe. Yeah.
Wow.
But look, comedy.
Is your father still alive?
My father is still alive. He is 82 years old.
Wow. He would be an interesting person to interview.
We have an NPR story with me and him on Snap Judgment.
Wow. I just did a whole episode about the Lockerbie plane crash.
Yeah. And the Lockerbie bombings changed everything for us as a community of Libyans in the diaspora. There's a really beautiful book written about it. That won the 2017 Pulitzer Prize by Hisham al-Matar. It's called The Return. It's stunning and haunting and difficult and beautiful. And it details the story of Libyan asylum seekers and refugees in Egypt having to flee Egypt and being disappeared and just dying because they were persona non grata after Lockerbie. And that's what happened with us.
Wow. Well, for both of you, what was the hardest part of assimilating?
Hoda's an American.
I was born and raised in North Carolina. We lived in actually a really predominantly white area, which was interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't know that I was different until Ramadan would come around. And then I'm fasting and we were having all the when I was younger, Ramadan would be in the fall. So they would do they would call it learning experiences where they would do Halloween themed stuff and Christmas themed stuff. And that's probably when I realized oh, okay, I don't really do this and I can't eat this stuff. And
yeah.
But honestly, I feel like I was really lucky where I grew up. I can't say that I faced a lot of discrimination. I was really, really fortunate. I put on the hijab when I was 11 and I had, my friends in school. I went to public school. My friends in school were really sweet and supportive. And
that's great.
Yeah, they were really, really encouraging. I think I didn't know that assimilation could be different or things could be difficult until, my friends got killed in the shooting in Chapel Hill about 10 years ago. We're coming up on that anniversary. And so that kind of shook my worldview and what growing up there felt like and how it looked like for other people as well. But until then, I had immigrant parents. So there was a lot that I couldn't do and things that I had to abstain from and kind of going through explaining that. But for the most part, I'm number 4 out of 5 kids. So my sibling very much had a blueprint for me that I could follow. And so I was lucky that I had really good role models who had like been to all the same schools and had to deal with like, couldn't go to prom and like things like that. So I had a lot of guidance kind of navigating growing up as kind of this third culture kid.
Wow. Okay. Well, what about for you, Yasmin?
Not my experience. It was rough. It was really rough. I also talked different than other people. So that's why I was trying to, as much as possible, relate to them. And comedy was a big open door to talk to people through. And that's what I did. I just walked straight through that door. I was very funny in elementary school and kind of did SNL skits and tried my best to do what I enjoyed. And then I saw other people found joy in it too. And I could make fun of the teachers and people would laugh. And I was like, oh, that's powerful. That's really powerful. So that's kind of how I survived. I related to people through that, but it was not easy. It was one of very handful of Muslim families in Alabama where I was in North Alabama, really close actually to the Tennessee border. And the community has now grown significantly since then, but I was, the only one that wore a hijab. I look different. I talk a little different. I talk like a northerner. They'd be like, "You're so weird. Why do you talk like that?" That's so weird.
Yeah.
Bless your heart.
I was just, and I was always like, I don't know. I sound literate. I don't know. I sound like I read books. I'm not sure. I don't know why. Why do you have a problem with the way that I talk?
Yasmin, were your teachers always shocked that you were like outspoken and funny and loud? Like I always had that happen to me.
Oh, did you?
Oh yeah. And smart. Yeah. They didn't expect me to be very smart.
They didn't expect you to be smart.
Yeah.
At all.
Smart or like talkative anytime.
Or
like,
to speak English properly. Yeah.
Yeah. In class, like the first day of school, I think all my teachers were like, yes, we get like a quiet little Muslim girl who's going to like cause no issue. And then like day 3, they're like, all right, this is not what
true.
We did.
I'm just trying to imagine you now as you go into dating. Did that begin to be an issue? Did you find that there were enough people to date in some of the areas that you were living?
Well, I married somebody in Germany, so no, I went pretty far. Yes and no. I mean, going through the process of like trying to meet somebody, there's so much to consider. My parents are pretty like conservative practicing Muslims, and I am too, although them, probably more than I am. But I was born and raised in North Carolina, so everything around me didn't fit into the way my parents expected the process to go, or the kinds of people they expected me to marry. And I was never going to like go to Egypt and marry somebody in Egypt. That was just something I wasn't going to consider. So it took a lot of like trial and error to find like, what is the kind of guy that I want to be with? I knew like I wanted somebody devout and a practicing Muslim. Like that was important to me, but I also didn't want somebody that was like toxically practicing. I wanted to do what I want, and I wanted somebody that was like fun and lively and worldly, I guess. Even though I kind of grew up in like a sort of small town bubble, I felt like I didn't align with guys that grew up where I came from, just because I don't know, I wanted to do more. I wanted to experience more. I didn't want to stick with the status quo. And so, yeah, it's challenging, like what we practice and what we, try to encourage in our clients and people we work with is, find somebody that aligns with your core values, find somebody complementary to you, and find somebody that ultimately, you like, they spark joy, you have fun with them, and obviously marriage has ups and downs. It's not always fun, but don't settle. Don't just pick somebody just because like, hey, my parents kind of think this is a good guy, or they're really well known in the community and, they do X, Y, Z, or they're a doctor, So definitely having my own experiences of trial and error really, really helped me to kind of just guide people through their journey and just making sure that when they find somebody, they choose the right person.
What are some of the spoken and unspoken rules? Because I think that there are spoken and unspoken rules in every faith.
For sure. I think in the way we do things, we kind of don't promote casual dating. Marriage is on the table from day one. When you're meeting somebody, the end goal and the topic that is safe and easy to talk about is that, the point we want to reach is marriage. You know, we don't promote dating for like 2, 3, 4 years. Yasmin has a great line about that I'll save it for you, Yasmin. It's, you know, halal.
You can say it. Just say it, Hoda.
No, you say it. It's all you.
I don't even know what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's different. That's different. Yeah, like it's different than dating for long periods of time, right?
Yeah.
Like the 2 to 3 years.
But it's not the casual, you know, aspect.
We don't move in with each other usually before we get married, Kate.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's one of the unspoken things that you're never going to really know what's what until you live with somebody. And Muslims just on average don't move in with each other before there's a marriage between them, a union. And I think that's like that's like old school, right? There's a lot of traditional parents that don't love their kids moving in with somebody until they're married or having kids before they're married. And those are some of those unspoken rules within our tradition as well. And we definitely want people to be intentional, like Hoda said, and have seriousness, kind of long-term commitment at the forefront of their mind, not just to like play around with people's hearts or play around with your own heart, you know. And it's not to say that some people don't casually date who are Muslim. So many do. It's just that what we are trying to promote as matchmakers who really think about the weight of love and the weight of marriage, especially if you have failed like I have. I've learned a ton from failure. And the line that Hood is talking about is, say, if you're going to fail fast and fail forward. And that comes from tech, you know, but I think it's kind of all relationships. Like, if something is not going to work, man, I want to know if it's not going to work pretty quickly. I want to know if we're not aligning pretty quickly, instead of dragging our feet and pretending like you're going to commit to me, pretending like our parents are going to get along, pretending like it doesn't matter about our geographical location or our intended goals in life. So I think some of the unspoken things too is that the families have to get along. Like when Muslims get married, it's like, you ain't just marrying the person, you're marrying their background, you're marrying their community sometimes.
Oh my God, I would be so screwed. I would be so screwed because I would not want them to meet my family for like years. Yeah. Like, what are you going to do if you're Muslim and your family are like a little bit
cray-cray?
Yeah. Like, what do you do?
A little cray-cray. It happens. I want to tell you, Kate.
Okay. Yeah.
And you find the most acceptable family member, you find the person that you're closest to in terms of aligning views and specifically like worldviews and like acceptance. And you find that person and you let them meet them. It could not be sometimes a mom or a dad. Maybe it's a sibling. Maybe it's an uncle. Maybe it's an aunt. Maybe it's a cousin even.
Yeah. Or somebody you pretend is a cousin. You're like, can you just pretend you're my cousin?
You could totally lie. I think like good relationships are built on lies, Kate. I think that's actually obfuscation.
I feel
lies,
like when you're dating, I always say when you're on the dating apps, like I met my husband on Match.com like almost 20 years ago. And I totally exaggerated who I was to make myself look like an elevated version.
It worked. It sounds like it worked.
It
like
worked.
A resume.
Can you do that if you're Muslim and you're dating? Can you kind of like for example, I said I liked adventure and I like to cook. I'm like, I complained when I had to go to Canada 2 weeks ago. I mean,
so you don't we fake it till you make it? Yeah.
Can you do that if like as part of this?
It's an element of putting your best foot forward. We like to say, you know, if you did yoga once, I'm a yoga instructor.
Okay, good, perfect.
People are always going to exaggerate, Kate. Everyone wants to land the job, but I always say,
that's true.
I always say, if you want that job, what if you hate the job? What if you're just looking for a job and you exaggerated about being an expert in Excel or camping,
right?
And you are now stuck, and you live in a camper. That's not what you want.
No.
You know, you don't want to be in the Microsoft Office suite if you don't know what the hell you're doing. So
truly,
it's always like, you get to pick the parameters of what you want to accentuate about yourself. And there is something called like the wish bias, which is like, I wish I was a really good cook. I wish I was super extroverted, but I'm actually an introverted weirdo. Let's just say, right? And so sometimes we're wishing we're one thing, but I always find, and I think Hoda would agree, that if you are honest and authentic about who you are, you will always have a better outcome.
For sure.
Because then someone can like you or dislike you for exactly who you are, and you don't have to act.
You're not just finding a person, like, give me somebody, I got to marry somebody. You want to find the person, you want to find your person, and you have to be authentic and genuine and true to yourself to get there.
Okay, speed round of questions. Can you meet somebody at a bar? No, that's not going to happen.
So that's some not Muslims what we will suggest.
Because my friend Nour doesn't drink. So
yeah, a lot of Muslims don't, but some do. So some would meet in a bar. It's just not me and Hoda's clientele.
That's the halal haram ratio. Halal is like things permissible in faith. Haram are things that are not permissible in faith. Drinking, not permissible. Do Muslims drink? Yes.
Yeah.
Will we ever set up our clients on a first date at a bar? No.
And you're saying to like lay off the intimacy. Like you have to really just sort of figure out if you're a good match before that begins. But if somebody gets a little too excited and they're a little intimate, like
anyone could be frisky.
They could be
it's
frisky.
Their choice.
Okay.
It's their choice.
It's their choice. Okay.
Of course, but we're going to give you our wisdom, right? Which is, hey, like Islam has wisdom. We don't want to have a disdain on wisdom. There's a reason things are the way they are. We believe God knows us better than we know ourselves. And it's better to delay those things until you have a commitment, so that a man is not just, or a woman is not just taking all of you and being in a relationship without the real bind of a commitment and the weight of love.
Yeah. This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. A lot of you are starting new rituals for the new year. Whatever you do, you can come into your own way with extraordinary hydration from Liquid IV. I have to say my favorite flavor is the new Hydration Multiplier Sugar-Free Raspberry Lemonade because it's a bright, zero sugar, flavor combining notes of ripe, freshly picked raspberries and citrusy, zesty lemon. I just take the pack and I pour it into a large glass of ice cold water and I knock it back and I feel like $1,000,000 and my skin, it looks so much better and it really gets me going on my day. I think you're going to love it too. I love the benefits. I like feeling like I'm hydrated all day long. And if you're somebody who's outdoors or plays sports, this is an absolute must-have. So listen, break the mold and own your ritual. Just one stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. So embrace your ritual with extraordinary hydration from Liquid IV and get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code Kate Casey at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code Kate Casey at liquidiv.com.
Behind the delivery trucks that keep your life stocked, thousands of employees at BP go to work every day. People bringing a new offshore production platform online. People making our refineries capable of more, like making renewable diesel from agricultural waste. People trading and shipping fuels to our customers. And people helping truckers fill up and get maintenance at our convenient locations. They're part of the more than 300,000 jobs BP supports across the country. Learn more at bp.com/investing in America.
You have 300 questions.
Yes.
Which is bonkers, but like probably what I ask in a good 30 minutes to anybody.
You've asked like 255 so far, Kate.
Well, I mean, like I
lay off the questions, Kate.
Well, I read that I was like, well, that would be kind of great for me because I ask so many questions. Sometimes people act like I'm stalking them, but this really presents an opportunity for you to actually get to a lot of the stuff that, as you pointed out earlier, you might not get that till like month 8, and then you're like, I've just wasted the time.
The framework, exactly. Yeah, it's guardrails. Gives you a framework of how to get to the good stuff in a safe way. And as your matchmaker, you kind of guide them through that as well. You don't just like leave them on their own and like, all right, see you later, figure it out. Guardrails.
And we want to, it's not like 300 questions at one time. I want to clarify.
Oh, I would do it.
You probably would. You're, and so would investigative journalists, but we want those 300 questions over a period of 3 months. We want you to really get to know somebody. And the questions just like Hoda so beautifully articulated as a framework, right? It's an attempt to give yourself permission to ask some questions that maybe you would normally ask, or you didn't feel like you'd feel a little awkward about asking about debt, about a little bit awkward about asking about a childhood thing.
You have a 401k.
Yes,
which is important.
Which is important. Or like, what do you think about sex? Who taught you about sex? Like, those are some important questions that you should discuss and explore. And sometimes people have a really difficult time giving, giving certain questions a chance before maybe you get to year 1 or month 8 or month 6, where you feel a little bit more comfortable and you've created trust. But they're organized in 12 sections to like basically track 12 weeks. So we can get to one sort of section of questions, but you don't have to ask any of them. They can just provide for you an outline so that if there's one of them that you really want to ask or one that you were afraid to ask, you can ask it. But that's the way that, in our opinion, that you can actually test whether you have an emotional connection with someone or not. We think within 3 months, you can find out if you have an emotional connection with someone.
Now, I know that some consider it important to have someone with you when you go on these dates. How can you ask those questions about sex when someone else is around?
It's a great question.
Yes. So that concept is the concept of having a mahram, which is basically just like a third person. It could be, a male relative, a brother, dad. Some people take a friend just to feel safe.
Does it have to be a male relative? Can't you have a female relative?
I mean, it's
as a chaperone.
Yeah.
As a chaperone, yes. As a chaperone, yes. Not as a mahram, but as a chaperone.
So the official term, a mahram, I think it has to be a male relative, but you can have a chaperone, a friend, whoever you feel comfortable with. It essentially just provides like safety, which I think we all need sometimes, especially if meeting somebody for the first time. But, the way we do things, and this is kind of where we blend, our culture and our tradition with just like modern times. We, you talk on the phone, you FaceTime, like you also have time to just like speak and get to know each other without necessarily somebody always being present. But there's also like, as a matchmaker, and I've done this for clients before, like I can ask the tough questions like on behalf of a client that I'm helping. So they might come to me and be like, hey, I kind of want to know this thing. I don't know how to ask it. It could be like, have they been intimate before? Whatever it is. And, we can help with that and just kind of find out.
Are you ever in a position where you have to ask something that's like super personal and you're sort of like, oh my gosh, this is so uncomfortable?
Honestly, not necessarily. Sometimes like you have clients who like ask a lot of questions and then it gets to a point where I'm just like, listen, you're going to have to give
like
time
overdoing it.
Yeah. It's a little bit too much sometimes, but I feel like for the most part, people don't necessarily like abuse that, or at least in my experience.
Yeah.
I just want to add one thing, which is the sex questions are on week 12. So like, I want you to build up to that, and when the idea of a chaperone, being present or being in a public space, that's the idea in Islam, as a way to have two people not completely alone, is an attempt to try to keep things from getting physical too quickly. And also someone as a lifeline if you need, right? Oftentimes people will go to a public place and it doesn't mean that chaperone is engaged in your conversation. Like I never had that. I never wanted that. Some people want that. I never practiced that.
I had it. My parents we would sit at a table. My mom would sit at another table, or my brother would sit at another table. So we had our privacy. It's not that she was like right here, like, what did you say?
Oh my God, I would be the worst parent. I would be listening. I will listen to everything.
I love that. Well, you've got 5 kids. I mean, I'd be literally going through their rooms right now.
I ask them now. I'm like, what, like, who are you talking to? What's going on with this situation? Yeah, I'm nosy for sure.
I love that. But but not everybody does that. Yeah. Like Muslims are just like everybody else. We're human beings. We have certain preferences and inclinations. Some of us are going to be over here on the spectrum, and other are going to be very conservative. So we're all like beautiful shades. We're a panoply of diversity.
Okay, so you have a client and they're like, this is it. This is the person. How does that sequence go? Like, then the man tells his family, I want to propose, and then ask permission. How does that go?
It depends, because culturally, what you're talking about, Kate, is like there's some cultural aspects to that. Some people want to have permission from, like they want to go to their father and ask permission. Some people have bad relationships with their father and they're like, don't go ask my father. I'd be like,
don't ask him. Don't ask.
Right. So like we have to, in Islam in general, when we're thinking about family relations, there's a lot of urf, which means custom. So you got to follow like what is customary in a particular society. within, again, the rules of what we believe God has intended for marriage, which again is a committed relationship between a man and a woman. So when we're thinking through this particular issue about what happens, you've decided that this is your person, what happens now, right? Yeah. A part of my rules of 3 is that I don't love anyone getting to the point where they're like, yeah, I want to commit until they've seen you around your friends and family 3 times. That's the hidden rule of 3.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Before they're there, we already have wanted families to be involved, essentially.
Yeah. And we want to see you around those folks when your guard is down. Some people say they talk a big game and you're alone and you're talking, or, you have a lot of one-on-one time, but my family's like this. Oh, my friends think I'm like that. And then you see them around their friends and family. You're like, oh, this is their wish bias. This is what they thought they were. And so I love promoting that because it gives you an opportunity when you're discussing that commitment timeline, whether or not what you've been told is actually the reality. And also you just get more shades of who a person is. I want to see you to see someone when they're in their highs, their lows, their excitement, their anger, their frustration, when they're teased. I want you to see them in all of their emotions before you make a decision. So for us that, we don't have any real timeline, but because all timelines are kind of artificial, but a lot of people are engaged at 6 months and then they get married within a year, at the year or year and a half mark.
It's kind of funny because for a lot of us, there's no surprise engagement. It's like we decided, we agreed, and there's a planned proposal that it's happening on this day and it's happening on this time. There's no I think he's going to propose. It's like, no, we talked about it and we decided let's get married in a couple of months. Or it's
but will they
funny.
do a ceremony with a heart and flowers and a heart?
It's it's just you may have actually already gotten engaged and then you do that just for the fun and the photo op and
for the photos. Yeah.
By the way, my first marriage, which was last a year and a half, he proposed and I was like, then I felt bad.
Yeah. See, we don't have
I felt bad and I was like, I guess I have to say yes. And I feel like that would have alleviated the issue if I had known.
Ask no questions that you don't know the answers to already.
Interesting. Okay. And then Muslim weddings, are they over the top? Are we spending a ton of money? Are they run the gamut?
It's every family does things differently. Some people will do just the marriage contract, which is the nikah, which is usually in a mosque. Friends and family are there. And a lot of people are all right, that's done.
Just like a Jewish wedding, you're writing the contract. Yeah.
Yeah.
The ketubah,
and every marriage has that aspect of writing the contract. Some people stop there and all right, we're married. Everybody knows we're married. We're moving in together. We've announced it. We're not going to do a big reception. But you have the other side of the coin of and I've been to these weddings, $100,000 weddings that are 500
over the
people
top.
And over the top. So we have very modest full scale. That's just culture, family preference, economically, can you afford it? But so that's there's no, that's
that custom we were talking about. They're out of what is your custom? What does your culture really want? Is it a 3-day wedding? Is it just one, afternoon luncheon, or is it a 500 seated meal? And you're going to, slaughter cows and have ballerinas. And that's what my brother had. My brother had that kind of wedding. He had he had a seafood bar. He
Egyptian
had
weddings are belly dancers.
Yes. Yes. He had all of that. And that was not my experience. Let's just
me neither.
That's not my experience.
Wait, the brother that you set up, he got married?
Yeah. Yeah. The brother I set up got married. He's my first match.
What? Wait, was the wedding in Irvine?
No, the wedding was in San Stefano, Four Seasons Hotel in Alexandria, Egypt. They got married in Egypt.
We got married in Egypt. I love Egyptian weddings are the best in the world.
You know what I was going to tell you guys?
Epic.
You're sitting on a spinoff here.
Yes.
You're sitting on spinoffs. You have this show and then you have Muslim weddings.
Yes, Muslim weddings of the world. And they're actually pretty stunning, Kate.
They're
to
incredible.
see how many Muslims are... European continent Muslims, North American continent Muslims, African, Asian, and every South American Muslims. They're doing something different.
Yeah.
Well, do you think that that's kind of the fun? Sometimes when you meet somebody who is Muslim from another country, is learning all the nuances of their culture too?
Yeah. As a matchmaker, you kind of have to adjust. I don't know it all. I don't know everything about what every family and every culture does. So you just really have to adapt. Like, okay, like if that's how your family does things, or that's how you want to do things. Like, hey, let's make that work.
And I haven't found two families that do things the same way. You know, they have their little traditions on top of traditions.
Even like the little things, like when do you give the ring? Like my family, like you give the ring when you sign the marriage contract. My husband was like, the day we like first bit of engagement, I'm putting a ring on it. So like there's
and will he like lean down in the American style and you get on one knee and you ask? Is it the same kind of like that?
That's the planned proposal. That's the proposal you already knew about. You already picked out your ring. And they're just gonna.
By the way,
at least you know
you like your ring, you know?
Yeah, it can happen like that. There are people who do spontaneous proposals. It's just that's not what we're doing over here in the matchmaking world, because you kind of know what you're signing up for in the matchmaking.
Like marriage is there day one. It's on the table.
Well, I always tell people the greatest thing about unscripted TV, which is, of course, everything I obsess about, is that it takes you into different pockets of the world and you get to see someone else's life. And the more you learn about other people, the more you realize you actually have a lot in common. You know? Yeah, and that's the great thing about this series is I think a lot of people are going to watch it and go, that's not totally dissimilar to the way that I was dating or I went through the process of finding a match. So congratulations on a great idea. And I'm excited for the reaction to the show, which I think is going to be great. Again, I feel like you're sitting on a gold mine with the other spinoff, the wedding show.
Yeah, the grand weddings, the different, the colorful, beautiful
Muslim weddings of the world.
Muslim weddings of the world.
Yeah, Hulu, ABC, you're welcome.
You're welcome. Kate, I was going to say one thing. You ask lots of questions, right? Rapid fire questions even sometimes.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we always tell our clients is a way to get to know someone and sort of get them off their heels when you're asking a question is to answer the question first. So it's a way to create a bit of vulnerability where they can meet and match your energy at what you're offering.
Yeah.
So Kate, I want to ask you.
Please do. Okay, go ahead.
How did your husband propose to you? The one you kept, not the starter kit. Because you win someone, you divorce some. That's what I say. You win someone, you divorce some.
Truly. We went to Beverly Hills to the Bel Air Hotel. And then he took me in a limo, which no one drives anymore, to dinner. The little door restaurant. And then we went to a place for like a nightcap. And then we went back to the Bel Air Hotel. And in the room, there was flowers in the shape of a heart. With a ring box in the middle.
Were you surprised? Did you? No, you knew. Okay.
No, because I was like putting pressure on him. Like, are we going to get married? But you know what's so funny about dudes is they like have their own thing. And he's like, well, remember? And I surprised you. I'm like, surprise me? Like, what? I mean, I think, once you get to the hotel and he's like, we're going to go to the first place we ever went to dinner, you're kind of like, something might happen.
Something's happening. Oh,
but it was special nonetheless. And, I've been married since 2007 with 5 kids. So it all worked out.
Wow. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Beautiful.
18 years. That's not a joke, Kate. Your 18th year.
By the way, if I go to a Muslim wedding, is there like a good music and I can like do the worm and everything?
God.
Like,
girl, yeah.
Can I sing? Can I grab the microphone and sing?
Don't do that.
Probably don't sing. But there's belly dancers. There's some of them. Can I
just get a score and invite to someone's wedding? Throw me into the spinoff.
We'll put you on the spinoff.
Okay, good.
All right. Well, you can cover it.
There's a season 2.
Season two. Yeah. Tell everybody where they can find this great series and then where they can find you guys.
You can find Muslim Matchmaker on Hulu on February 11th. You can find me at What's Hoodie on Instagram. And, I have my matchmaking website, which is findloveia.com.
Yeah, you can find me at Yasmin Elhady. Stupid. It's long. I think I don't want to ever be famous. But on Instagram, you can find me on TikTok at Yasmin_Elhady. And you can also find me on my website, Yasmin.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Thanks.
We're so happy to be here. Thank you, Kate.
Nour and I go way back. Our kids actually went to the sweetest school together, Pacific Shores, and our sons became buddies. I love the fact that you guys are married to brothers. And you have to tell me first of all, you guys, tell me about your family.
Yeah, so I'm the youngest. It's just Reem and I. We're two sisters, 2 girls, and I'm the youngest in the family. She's 6 years older than me, but I would have to say growing up, she was definitely more of my mother figure. because we immigrated to the States when I was 2 and Reem was 8. And, you know, our lives changed completely. So she definitely had to grow up really quickly. But it really, the dynamic of our relationship changed once I went to college and I lived with her. And we were always so close, but we became even closer. I would say we more became equals in our dynamics and best friends. And we then started having like all those major adult milestones at the same time.
When you were growing up, what were the things that you knew about? Like, how did your parents talk to you about dating, and how did you look at the dating process?
It was a non-starter. That was not that was just not, I think in some ways growing up in a place where there weren't a lot of other Muslims actually made it a lot easier for our parents to raise us this way because, actually Muslims in other places dated all the time, something I discovered when I got to college.
Yeah.
But, our parents were like, we're different. Our faith is different. We don't do that. And you're not going to do that. And it's perfectly fine to have friends. And we would have our guy friends over our house all the time. They're like, friendships are absolutely acceptable, but we don't date. And that was just the way that it was. And we we're totally fine with that somehow, we're very American, but at the same time, we just understood what what the sort of there were certain things that were just not allowed. And that was one of them.
But, I would say that the reason why I think it was so understood was because our parents did such a good job explaining why. Now that I have kids of my own, I really think back and I admire them so much the way that they did it and I know that they were also raised this way, is everything was for a reason. It was never, our religion was never taught to us out of fear. It was taught to us out of love. And everything had a very reasonable explanation. They were definitely not naive. They knew what happened at these parties. And
the opposite, right? They had more fear there. They had more of this, in their minds, actually what happened at parties was far more insane than what actually happened at these parties because, they watch American movies. And so they just thought they're the picture in their head, what happens at a party was so much crazier than the reality. And so they were just so protective. Yeah, we would go to Damascus and we had total freedom in Damascus. That's why we loved going. We would go out with friends, we had so much fun.
There was no curfew.
There was no curfew. We just had a great time because they knew Damascus. I mean, it was a very different place at that time. But the fear, the image of what happened happens at American parties is kind of funny because I think
I would say definitely there were some truth to their fears, but, my mom would say, I would be getting ready to leave and she'd say, she would, sit me down before I would go and she'd say, I don't know what happens at these parties. I don't know what you do, but just know that God does. And then she'd say, but you look so pretty. Have fun. And I would leave with this pit in my stomach, oh God.
Yeah.
The whole time I would be out, I would be offered things and I would just politely decline and just be like, I can't because I know God is watching. So, but again,
I was different because I didn't want to go out. My parents were actually worried about me. They're like, just go have fun. This is in high school. Yeah. And I was just no, thanks.
Nour, I remember you telling me that for your dad, it was important that you marry somebody from Syria. And then wasn't he I want you to marry somebody from Damascus?
Yes. Yeah, I remember.
Did he tell you the street too, where you should live?
No. I'm sure.
I mean, if we were in Damascus, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
He would be like,
Yeah.
Abu Mane or Malki. Like, that's it.
Those are your two spots only. Yeah, I mean, I remember I was 16 and, as Reem said, like we had a lot of guy friends and they would always come over and my dad loved them. And, it was always it was fun. It was nice. But I think also he was worried. And so I remember one night he sat me down and he said, "Hey, I just need to let you know that obviously you have to marry someone that's Muslim. Like that's, a given. But you also have to marry someone from Syria. And not only does he have to be from Syria, but he has to be from Damascus." And I remember in my thick Southern accent, I looked at him and I was like, "But where am I going to find him, Daddy?" Like, how do I find him? Because
he was okay with Lebanon too. Those were
he was okay with Lebanon for sure. Well, and the irony is our dad is actually from Aleppo.
Yeah.
But he's very specific about Damascus. He's from Aleppo, but he lived the majority of his life in Damascus. He was my mom's neighbor. He lived across the street from her, and he fell in love with my mom when they were teenagers. And but it just, he was very specific. And like again, their logic behind that is
he wanted for us what he and my mom had, which is this, just an families who understand each other, that don't have to explain things, and we could just be like. And I like, as you're saying that, Nour, it's funny that you're saying that like when you're saying, oh, mom and dad were neighbors, they were across the street from each other. Like, I think we all want, if our lives are good, we want the same thing for our kids. And I think he felt like he and my mom like were amazing partners for each other, partly because they felt like they had such similar values and similar backgrounds, and wanted the same things out of life. And I think his like obsession with Damascus really was more about that than anything else.
For sure. Also, I think it's important to note that, we also had to find, I mean, of course, that was a bonus, right? If we found someone, with the same background, but that background also included someone who grew up in the US. Or, I mean, Reem and I were always introduced to people in Syria, from Syria, lived their whole life in Syria. And we were like, this is not going to work, and we just were so different. Like you just, you're raised, I mean, not raised differently, like the values are the same, right? But we're just different. I mean, you have someone Reem and I are American.
Like, that's the thing is, we were as much American as we were Syrian. And so.
Right. So we had to find someone from Syria, Damascus, Aleppo, Lebanon, you name it, that also was American. And I'm, 16 in Arkansas. That is my whole world. And I'm just like, how am I going to find this person?
As you write your life story, you're far from finished. Are you looking to close the book on your job? Maybe turn a page in your career? Be continued at the Georgetown University School of Continuing Studies. Our professional master's degrees and certificates are designed to meet you where you are and take you where you want to go. At Georgetown SCS, the learning never stops, and neither do you. Write your next chapter. Be continued at scs.georgetown.edu/podcast.
Get ready for epic family fun at Capital One Arena. January 24th through January 26th, it's the Monster Jam. Bigger trucks, bigger stunts, and even bigger thrills. Then on February 14th, WWE takes over with electrifying action and your favorite superstars live in the ring. Don't miss the Harlem Globetrotters on March 8th, a slam dunk of fun for everyone. Tickets are on sale now at CapitalOneArena.com. Don't wait, grab your seats tonight and secure memorable moments for your whole family.
So the fact that you married brothers, how did that happen?
We met through friends, and my husband actually met Reem first through a mutual friend. But when he met Reem, he instantly thought that she would be perfect for his brother.
Well, it was sort of like he actually met you too. So
He met me too, but
yeah, we had all gone out to brunch. He was in DC with a mutual friend of ours, and we all went out to brunch, and we were all just like hanging out. Didn't think anything of it, and it was the summer. It was the summer before I went away to grad school in New York, and I remember meeting him. I remember meeting Ahmed, who's now Nour's husband, and it was sort of like the way that they tell it is that I was very gregarious, very loud. And he just was like, she would be so great for my brother. But it didn't like go anywhere. Nobody said anything. Everyone just sort of went about their lives. I moved to New York and I was like determined to get married. Like I was like, I'm not, by the time I finished grad school, I am going to be engaged to somebody. Like I've always just wanted a family. Like it sounds so insane to think about that now because I was so young. But for whatever reason at that time, I was like, no, it's time. This is what I want.
Well, I also think the reason is that it's so funny how much has changed, in like 20 years or so, right? A little less than 20 years. But at that time, the culture seemed that if by 25, like my parents were starting to get worried, at 25, if, Reem wasn't talking to someone or on her way to get engaged, like they felt, the pressure was on, which now it's laughable because.
So weird to think about that. Yeah. But anyway, so I was like determined. And so like anytime anyone introduced me to someone, I went out with them. I got to know them. Like, just I dated so much that first year of grad school because I was like, it's a numbers game, right? Like you're not going to meet someone until you meet a lot of people and then you'll figure it out. And I was just about to give up. Like truly, I was like, this is so hard. Like finding someone who shares your values is so hard.
Mm-hmm.
I had a very close friend, Ali Sheikhli, and I told him that. Like, I'm so tired of this. I'm just about to give up, And he's like, no, don't give up. There's this one guy. He's perfect for you. He's perfect for you. And I was like, he's like, but he lives in California. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not doing this like phone email thing, right? Like introduce us to each other. And if he's really interested, just let him know from the get-go, he's going to have to come to New York because I'm not going to do this like virtual thing, which is also so funny because that's how everybody meets.
Works now.
Yeah. And so Samid got my email address and emailed me. And like, there was something about his email that instantly I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. So we're on our way to dinner one night. And this is to a non-Arab, and maybe even to an Arab of this generation, this would sound like so bonkers and insane. But like we're on our way to dinner and his mom calls on me, picks up, and she's like, I would love to meet her. I want to meet her. And I'm hearing this. I'm in the cab and I'm hearing her say this. And I'm like, this is like, and he's like, Mom, this is not the time, And I was like, I really like this guy. Like, I really want to meet his family before this goes any further, And I'm like, let me talk to your mom. So I like grabbed the phone from him. I'm like, hi, it's so nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, we want to take you out to lunch tomorrow. And I was like, I would love to. So isn't that crazy? Like I go out with this guy, like 2 days, we had been talking on the phone for a while, but like we meet in person, we're like, and literally our third date are with his parents. It's so crazy. And we're like having lunch and we're having and I like the minute I walked in and I saw Tante Rima, who is like their mom, I was like, oh my God, she's so elegant. She's so like she reminds me of my mom, And I was like, immediately it just felt so comfortable, I was like, I felt like I was surrounded by like family. So that's sort of how it all started. And then Samid had come to visit me in DC one weekend when I was in DC to visit my sister, which I did all the time. And he looked at her and he said, your sister, she's like, my brother is going to be so into her. And Nour and I were both like, what? No.
I was like, that's so weird.
That is so weird. Two brothers marrying two sisters? No way. Like, that's just not going to happen. So we just sort of like...
We laughed. We laughed.
We laughed. And he was like, I am telling you. Then we go to California. Like my parents go to California. So again, that part of our like engagement was in some ways very traditional. Usually in Syrian culture, the parents of the groom come to the home of the bride and ask for her hand in marriage. My parents are like, we're not going to ask them to come to Arkansas. That's crazy. They're like, we'll go to California. We'll go to California. So we go to their house in California. Like we all go. My parents are there and all that. And but Nour wasn't allowed to come because my mom had this feeling. My mom was like, he has a brother. Like, I just have a feeling that if Nour were to come, that something would start. And Nour is too young. Like at that time, she was like 20 years old and she needed to finish school. Education has always been the most important thing when it comes to like my parents. And so she just was like, Nour, you're not coming. And so my mom made up something like, oh, Nour has exams. She can't make it.
Yeah, which
so
I
we
found
go
very,
and like
very strange because my parents want me to be at everything. And I remember thinking that is so weird because she said, no, you have midterms. You should stay home. You should stay and study. And I was like, okay.
Which is, it's crazy. Like we do everything together as a family. Yeah. Anyway, so that was it. Like Samit and I get engaged and then we are planning this like big engagement party for, which is also our marriage ceremony. And if my sister can't miss that, right? Like she can miss the like, what we call the like tulbe, which is like the asking the hand for marriage, but she can't miss the like, basically the like wedding ceremony.
So the religious ceremony.
The religious wedding ceremony.
They call it the kitab, right? The writing of the book.
Yeah, the writing for the book. And so anyway, so we all go to California for this big thing, and Nour is there, obviously, and Ahmed is there, and we're all together. We're all hanging out. Like all the young kids are together. And I come home one night, and Nour had met. Like we were all hanging out as a family too. And Nour says to me, I'm so happy you found Samit. I really hope that I can find someone like him and his family. Like it's just the families are so good together. I really hope that like this can happen for me too. And I was like, what about his brother? And she was like, maybe, I don't know. Like I would be interested. I don't think he's interested in me, which is the craziest thing.
I saw Ahmed and I was like, oh wow, he's pretty cute. I don't remember him being that cute. And then that was it. And then, this was, of course, like leading up to the ceremony. There's breakfast, lunches, and dinners, and all the families are there. So Amr and I were spending every day together. So by the time that their ceremony, their engagement party / kitab was happening, we were all over each other to the point where all of the cousins and aunts and uncles were like, what is happening? Who's getting engaged? Is it Reem and Samit or is it Nour and Ahmed? Like we're so confused what's happening here. And then he asked for my number that night officially and that we were going to go out. And so he tells his mom that night, after the party was over, he's like, I'm going to take the sister out. And his mom was like, what do you mean you're going to take the sister out? He's like, I'm taking her out for a coffee. She's like, you can't take her out.
You can't just take her out.
You can't just take her out. We're family now. Like, you can't take her out. I need to call and ask for permission. Like, you can't just take her out. Like, it's not appropriate. He's like, what are you talking about? It's just coffee, Mom. Like, I just want to take her out for coffee. And she's like, why are you doing this right now? Your brother just got engaged. Like, can't you just wait? Just wait. Let him get married and then you can take out the sister. But why do you have to do it right now? And he says to her, and he refuses to admit this, but...
Yeah, he denies it completely now.
He says it to her. He says, he's told her if I wait, I could lose her. And she was like, what? For her, he's the baby, Amr's the baby. And he was always very adamant that he wasn't going to get married until he was well into his mid-30s. And he, at that time, was 20, Reem, how old is he? 25?
25.
25, 26. And so she was like, for Amr to say that was like really shocking. And she thought, oh my God, okay, but I have to call and get permission. And so he was really, he didn't really have a choice. So the next morning, bright and early, the day after Reem's engagement party, my mom gets a phone call from Tante Rima. And my mom was like, thank you again last night for the most beautiful night. It was so special. And she said, I hope you slept well. And Tante Rima was like, I didn't sleep at all. And my mom was like, oh my God, what happened? Like my mom got nervous.
She's like, I need to talk to you about something. And my mom's like,
oh no.
Breaking off the engagement? Like she that's where her mind went,
Yeah.
And she said, she says, Amr wants to take Nour out. And my mom was like, okay, I need to talk to Nabil, who's our dad. She's like, I need to talk to him and I will get back to you.
No, she said more than that. She said, I need to talk to Nabil. He's going to flip out. Like his daughter just got engaged. Like this is a lot for him. Like, so like, I need a minute, like to talk to him before I can get back to you. And I was like, oh my God, this is like too much. Like Nour's only 21 years old at this point,
Yeah. And so she comes out and, my mom has, you could just tell something was wrong. We're all like sitting in the living room and she's like, that was Rima and Amr now wants to take Nour out. He wants to know if he can take her out. And honestly, I was sitting there and before I knew it, I mean, it was my dad, it was Reem, and then it was my aunt, it was my cousin, his wife, their children, more cousins, where everybody is sitting in the living room and discussing if it's a good idea that I go out with him. And they went through every scenario. I mean, they married us, they divorced us, they went through every...
Wait, hold on. I was fully supportive of this. Like,
no, Reem was.
I was not among the people who were complicating it because I loved Ahmed.
Yes, actually, and while for 30 minutes everybody is just deciding if it's a good idea or not, Reem realizes that no one at any point had even asked me what I thought. So Reem's like, everybody be quiet. Like let's ask Nour what she thinks. And my dad turns around and looks at me and he's like, do you want to go out with him? And I was like, I would like to get to know him. And my dad just, said, okay.
He's like, khalas. He's like, okay. He's
okay, fine.
I can't stop them.
He's like, okay, go. You can get to know him. And again, I think it was such a shock for him because, he was just accepting and obviously very happy that Reem is getting engaged and, got engaged and getting married, but never did he imagine his baby would be talking to someone in a serious way too. So it was really shocking. And also my parents our parents never pushed marriage. It was always like, that is the last thing you even think about. Like your education is the most important thing. You will go to college, you will go to graduate school, you will make something of yourself because nobody can take away your education. No matter what happens in life, nobody can take away your education. So they were very, it was a big deal for all of us. We connected, we talked. I went back to school and told myself not to expect much because it's really weird because he's going to be my brother-in-law. And then we decided to meet again a month later and make sure that our feelings were still there before things got more serious. Because again, our priority were our siblings, right? Like I would have never forgiven myself if my relationship affected my sisters. And so we were like, let's just meet again. And if the feelings are, still there, we continue. And if they're not, we're only a month in, so we'll just we'll end things before we're in too deep. And that's what we did. We met in New York and that was it. We just, as cliche as it sounds, we just knew. It was my father-in-law who asked my dad for my hand for his son. So it's funny because a lot of my American friends were like, oh my God, did he propose? How was the proposal? Did he propose? And I was like, he did not propose. His dad proposed.
Yeah, it's different.
It's different. And, and that happened in Arkansas. And then Reem and Sammer, this was in March when Amr and I got engaged. And then Reem and Sammer got married in August, right, Reem? Like almost 6 months later, 5-6 months later. They got married, and then Amr and I got married the following March. So it happened pretty quickly.
Has it been complicated at all, the fact that you share in-laws at all? Because I'm thinking as an outsider, you have somebody to complain about, and like they get it. They get it, right?
Having one pair of in-laws is so convenient because we have one Thanksgiving, like family vacations are just all of us together. Nobody has to choose. I'm going to go with this side this year. I'm going to go with this side this year. Like it just all sort of like, I highly recommend it. People, brothers and sisters, should marry from the same family all the time. Like it can be complicated. It's definitely a complicated situation, right? Like you have to be smart about things. Like, I think what helps us very much to the reason it works is because we live so far away from each other too. So like our lives are so interconnected and our kids are so close. Like we want our kids to feel like they're siblings. Like that is actually extremely important to both of us. Like my boys don't just have one sibling. Their cousins are also their siblings. And we want like that. There would be nothing in the world that would break my heart more than if our kids did not grow up to be extremely close. I would be devastated if that was the case because there's no one that is closer. Like my sister is my everything, Well,
thank you guys for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate.
So fun.
I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
The amazing Kate Casey.
I want to thank my great guest and remind you to click subscribe, leave a 5-star review. Make sure you join the Facebook group, Reality Life with Kate Casey. You can get my subscription for my What to Watch list by going to katecasey.substack.com. I will tell you what to watch in unscripted TV every week. You can get bonus extra episodes by going to my Patreon at patreon.com/KCasey. And follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at @KCaseyCA. TikTok, it's Kate Casey, and Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky at @KateCasey. Check back tomorrow for an all-new episode with Brian Moylan. We're going to talk about Southern Charm, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, a lot of great Bravos things. So make sure you check back and click subscribe.
And now, a next-level moment from AT&T Business. Say you've sent out a gigantic shipment of pillows, and they need to be there in time for International Sleep Day. You've got AT&T 5G, so you're fully confident. But the vendor isn't responding, and International Sleep Day is tomorrow. Luckily, AT&T 5G lets you deal with any issues with ease, so the pillows will get delivered and everyone can sleep soundly, especially you. AT&T 5G requires a compatible plan and device. Coverage not available everywhere. Learn more at att.com/5G network.